nothing garish or ugly, but something that can identify that that's our District 10 substation. That's what I have to say.
Okay, thank you. I'm sure Captain and the Deputy CAO will look at that, and if there's any adjustments need to be made, they'll address them. But it's a good point. We need to know where that is for people who are not familiar with the area.
There is some signage in the front windows of it,
Yeah.
of the station. The side there isn't, that's the entrance, the side entrance from the parking lot, but the front window does have the police emblem on it and identifying as a substation. At this point, we could discuss maybe getting some more on the side with the landlord.
I'd just like to add that I believe that is in the current contract. We would be responsible for the purchase of the signage, and we may have to check with the landlord, but it is something that's in there and a possibility.
Great, thank you. All right, I'll ask again, is there anyone else from the public who would have a question regarding the police substation? Anyone else with a question regarding the police substation? Anyone else with a question regarding police substation? Mr. Vice Chair.
I make a motion that we close the public portion on this particular item.
Second.
Made and second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? So carried. The public portion is closed. So discussion, we're into discussion. Want to make a motion, Mr. Vice Chair? You're muted, sir.
My apologies. Yes, I clearly support this moving forward to the full board for approval. I think it's a no-brainer. We've been there for a long time now. This happened to be my substation as well, and community room as well. They have been great partners, so that's my 2 cents about the whole piece. I think we should continue and pass this forward.
Well, do you want to put that in a form of a motion? We can move it.
I make a motion that we move this item to the full board.
Second.
Item is moved in second. Any discussion? Any additional discussion? Alder Singh.
I'm in support of the renewal of this lease for this facilities to have a continuancy of, for the officer and for the community to continue to use that space. And so it makes all good, proper working relation to continue with the lease. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. I must add my 2 cents, and I haven't been in that particular facility, but I've been in the former one, which was not really inviting. I think even for the public to come in, you want them to be able to come in and utilize the substation, whether it's to talk to the police or to have their own events there, meetings in the rooms. And this offers so much more as far as parking and room. So I support it as well. Alder Roth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also support it. It makes complete sense. And I just want to again thank the presenters for very clearly explaining why it makes sense, both for the community and financially.
Any other discussion? We are ready for a vote. It's been moved. Second, discussion is complete. All in favor?
Mr. Chair.
I have my hand up, Mr. Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see it. Alder Smith, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say that I'm in favor of this item simply because I've been into that substation. It's very beautiful, much beautiful than what they had before. And they have so many different activities that goes out of this. It benefits the community as well as the police department. And it's a fit for both groups. So I'm in full support of it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I'm sorry I missed a hand there. So we're ready for our vote. Let's to make it more identifiable, we'll go around the table, starting with Alder Wingate,
Yes.
Alder Roth,
Yes.
Alder Singh,
Yes.
Alder Smith,
Absolutely, yes.
and Alder Roth. You thought I forgot you, didn't you? No. And it's a yes for me. So carried. Thank you for the presentation, the information, and good luck in a new facility, or
Thank
the renewed facility.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we will move on to item number 2, the community management team. And this one is going to be a little bit more difficult to manage our way through. Now I've got a list in front of me of our 12 management teams. And hopefully, I mean, we have, I think it was 75 people or so in attendance. So hopefully we have,
77.
oh, okay. So hopefully we have a representative, and I'm going to ask for one representative from each of the management teams to be available to talk. We're not going to make it a whole group thing until we get to the open public portion of it. So I want to get my records up to date because I understand that there was some concern. So first, let me say this. And I mean, I've been around the management team issues for many years. The New Haven Board of Alders is not the community management team's watchdog. However, when actions of some or any of these groups negatively affect our communities, we as elected officials need to step up to the plate to help resolve the problem in any way that's appropriate or possible for us to do. Tonight is our first step in that correction process. The request for this public hearing comes from colleagues asking that we take a look at community management teams to try to help them to create a sense of consistency, to facilitate their sustainability and make effective management or governance. The management team history. Here's a little bit that many people seem to be confused about in management teams, but this is the way it works. First of all, there's a misconception that the police or the alders are members of the management teams. That is not the case. Management teams were organized in the 1990s, somewhere around 1992, if I remember correctly, as a part of Chief Pastore's community policing philosophy to partner and promote community engagement with the police department. The intention was that they be community-based organizations to address quality of life issues, crime reduction or crime in their area, and youth engagement. This is all to be organized and put together with the police to coordinate and deal with the district managers in those areas. Now, moving up to present times, that was about 30 years ago. The community management teams have become engaged in more than their original purpose. So now may be the right time to regroup, to take a new look at how the management teams can refocus and get back on the right track. We need to look at the goals and review the option of refocusing on the core purpose and the current structure of the community management teams. Many management teams' governing structure and bylaws are different. If you move from one area of town to another and you want to join the management team, the processes are all different. The way they do things are different. And that's not good for the general public. I mean, we like to keep our residents in town, so we like to make that facet of it accessible to everyone and understandable. Now, many management teams' governing structures and bylaws are different, so that makes it difficult. And that's led to some management teams having to recreate those guidelines. So the goal of this meeting is to have a discussion with the Board of Alders, the management team of chairs, and appropriate city departments to help to develop an action plan, develop an appropriate structure establish some responsibilities, understanding your power and authority, set up standardized bylaws. We're here to help. We want to help the community management teams in this city to be able to grow and establish some uniformity. Now, I said all that in hopes that everyone was getting prepared, and I see we have an additional alder who's come to join us, Alder Rodriguez, Evelyn Rodriguez, that is. So welcome, Alder Rodriguez. So I'm going to first start by going down the list. I'm going to try and make a note here so we can bring it up to date. Each of the management teams and their chairs, because I understand we got the list from LCI, so I understand that from the time the last input was done with LCI till now, there have been changes. So if this is incorrect, we will give you a chance to let me know during this meeting. So downtown management team, I have Caroline Smith. Westfield management team, Josh Van Hosen. Hills South, Sarah McIver. Dwight Chapel, Florida Gillespie. Hill North, Howard Boyd. Dixwell, Nina Silva. Newhallville, Kim Harris. East Rock, David Burgess, excuse me if I pronounce the name incorrectly. Fairhaven, Lee Cruz, and I guess the co-chair is Diane Ecton. The East Shore is Howie Blau. Quinnipiac East, Curtis Kearney. Beaver Hills, Nadine Herring. That's the 12 management teams, and those are the people that we have in those chair positions. And if there are any changes, please let me know. So here's where the difficult part comes in. We want to try to help, but we need input from you. We've heard things from around the city and problems in different management teams. Who's trying to take over a management team? In one management team area, the businesses supposedly took over the management team, and the neighbors, residents that live there don't have any input to the management team. I mean, the issues go on and on. So we need to try and find out if those problems do in fact exist, how we can get rid of them and get the management teams working on the same page. You know, do all the management teams have bylaws? Do they have a built-in prepared objective? You heard what it was supposed to be in the beginning, what the plan was. Are you abiding by those? Because if there's nothing new that's come out, then you should be following the old standards. Let me start with my vice chair. Do you have any input, any thoughts on some of those things that have been going on in the city with management teams? Alder Wingate.
I thank you, Chair. I'm be honest with you, I'm a little biased to this because I'm my management team, you know, I think do it right. So you know, I want to take this time to hear to honestly hear what's going on abroad, because I have really good relations with my management team in reference to how they function and how they do things and how they turn over, and even when I can't go to the management team, I'm filled in. You know, they share with me what they're doing, how they're doing it through my constituents. So tonight I want to step back and hear how management teams are governed other places as well, and the differences on how they come on board or how they don't come on board, those kind of things. But that's my 2 cents around that piece of it, Chair. So I want to be in a listening pattern tonight to take some information, and if we have to, we convene at another time to talk about standardized practices or anything like that.
All right.
I think I'd be helpful with that.
All right, let's do this. Mr. Lucas, we have some of the city departments in. I think Frank Diamore is on from LCI. Do we have someone from the Corporation Counsel's office?
We do.
All right, can we bring at least those two in? I don't know if we have anyone else from city departments on.
Oh, we got plenty.
Not easy scanning this list. I was trying to scan the list for some of the names that I had here, and it's not easy. Maybe if while we're bringing in the city departments, those chairs of management teams, if you'll raise your hand so that we can see where you are on our list, that would be helpful to us.
That was not helpful.
All we want is the chairs, no general members or anything of that nature. We want the executive division there.
Okay.
Not bad, 11 out of 12. Let's see if I see anybody else. Are all our departments in?
I believe we've got most people in. So
It's going to be a crowded room.
So LCI, Economic Development, Corporation Council, Mayor's Office, MPD are all represented, and CAO are all represented.
Great. Let's go around those departments and ask if we've got any input from them. Maybe we should start with Ms. Arlevia Samuel for LCI, since they probably the lead group in this whole operation.
Good evening. I'm Arlevia Samuel, the Acting Executive Director for LCI. This meeting was not called under LCI.
No, it wasn't.
I'm not sure where you want me to go with it.
No, if you had heard any complaints, you've gotten any complaints through your department regarding issues with management teams that we may be helpful in addressing here.
Oh, I mean, most of the management teams for the most part are really great and cooperative. The only complaints I can see that come around is sometimes that they're more like cliques than a management team, where they don't involve a majority of the community, or a lot of community members don't even realize that they have a community management team. So it would be more so the marketing to the neighbors that there is a community management team, and inviting everyone in to have a say so to know what's going on in their communities.
Now, as far as you know, does LCI, does your department keep any sort of records as far as leadership in any of the management teams, contact people, other than what we've gotten initially, the names that I read off from the list we got from your department?
Well, our specialists go to the meetings, and if there are any changes as far as the leadership of the management teams, we take note of that and we change it on our list. But that's as far as we keep note of who's the president, who's the vice president, and the seats as far as their boards for the management team, but not the members per se.
Okay. I'm trying to see maybe where the extra sound is. That sound coming from your background?
Yeah, I got a 6-year-old painting
Oh,
next to me.
okay, just I can understand that. Just if we find out where it's coming from, if it was something other than our involvement here. So what we probably need to do is this is one of the most difficult meetings I've had to chair. And I'm looking at my vice chair for support here. Let's look at LCI. I'm sorry, Corporation Counsel's Office. I see Attorney King and a few of her staff here. There was a concern or consideration of city being responsible for management teams, and I know that is not a fact. And you and I have talked about it briefly. Is there any possibility, or is there any thoughts about the city overseeing it?
Well,
Name and address, please, ma'am.
I'm sorry.
Name and address, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Patricia King, Corporation Counsel, 32 Vista Terrace in New Haven.
Thank you.
Yes, you and I spoke, which is frankly how this issue first came on my radar, actually, some number of months ago. And in looking at this, I discovered that at this point in time, the community management teams are not really an official city entity, if you will. They're organized through the policing substations, I should say, in the policing districts in the city. And the only time they're mentioned in the ordinances or the charter is with respect to the appointment or recommendation of nominees for the Civilian Review Board. So they're not an official city entity, so to speak. And so the city really has no leverage to exercise any control over the community management teams. And their general role, as I understand it and has been described, has basically been a liaison between the neighborhood and, as it started out, the police departments with community policing issues. And I can tell you from my time on both the City Plan Commission and Board of Zoning Appeals, they have also become involved in community development in their particular neighborhoods. When there's a developer who wants to do something, I think it's generally sort of accepted practice that the developer or the applicant for whatever benefit they're coming to whatever board for meets with the community management team to get some community input and discuss various issues that the community might have with the application. So they really do act as a liaison group and advise various individuals on what neighborhood concerns are. I'm here tonight as much as anybody else to listen. If the city wants to make these community management teams sort of official city entities, we would have to pass an ordinance, decide what requirements we wanted to impose. And, I guess the good news about that is that there would be some level of control we could exercise. The flip side of that, which may or may not be bad news, is that if the community management teams become a city entity, then the city is liable for their conduct. So as one of my attorneys says, we flip the liability switch on. So that may be one concern. If they become an official city entity, they also have to follow all the requirements of FOIA, the Freedom of Information Act. They have to post notice of the meetings have to be public, there have to be agendas posted, the meetings have to be conducted in a certain way. So there's a lot more formality imposed upon the process through FOIA. We may also have to follow statutes regarding minority representation appointments where the majority political party can't take all the seats. And that has been, I know, has presented some difficulty for us in filling other boards and commissions on the city. So there's that. And as I said, the city also could face liability for any misconduct or tortious conduct that the community management teams might engage in. And not that I would expect them to do that, but we can be sued and do get sued for any number of claims, many of which, don't pan out. So that's kind of the downside of making them an official city agency. And then somewhere in between lies what levels of authority we might have, depending on how much consistency we really want to impose on these entities. So I guess if that helps, that's kind of where I am right now.
Thank you. It helps a lot. And I just want to assure you, this committee is not proposing or supporting that the management teams come under the authority of the city of New Haven. We're opening the door to help them, to help guide them, and to being very productive. My vice chair had a question. Mr. Wingate.
I don't have a question for I don't have a question for Ms. King. I think we should take a step back, and the item that was before us, perhaps we should read the item like the intent on why we were here tonight around the management team piece. I think we need to start off there. I think we got, this is a complex meeting, right? I think we should start there so we can have a setting ground so we can talk about the intent of the particular meeting tonight. Right. And thank you, Patricia, for giving us that Ms. King, the what you just gave us, but we're not there at all. That's not what we're here for.
Well, that's fine.
So I don't know if you have the item before you, Chair, but I think we should read the communication on why we're here tonight.
Well, the communication was very short. I can read the whole thing. We respectfully request a public hearing to address the structure, responsibilities, and bylaws of the community management teams in the city of New Haven.
So let's read that again. Let's read that one more time for them.
We respectfully request a public hearing to address the structure, responsibilities, and bylaws of the community management teams in the city of New Haven.
Thank you.
So, I think that's where we're looking, the responsibilities, the structure. Those are things that I think we're moving into that areas. We looked at kind of if there's issues, if there were any complaint issues that needed to be modified with as far as like this structure and their responsibilities. Ms. King mentioned the management team's involvement in community development per se. Do they, or would they would have input. It's certainly a good idea to have input, but do they have any authority? In other words, could they stop a particular project from going forward? I don't think so. That may be a question up in the air, or maybe Corporation Counsel would like to answer that.
Sure. And Alder Wingate, I just wanted to say, I was just mentioning the ordinance as an option. It's not something I'm advocating. I was just presenting it as an option as far as structure. But
I appreciate that. This was our piece that we should have done from the beginning. This is on us. I apologize.
Oh, not a problem. As to the input of community management teams, just like any other community entity or any citizen who wanted to appear a public hearing before either Board of Zoning Appeals or City Plan or any other city board or commission, the community management teams offer their input, offer their suggestions, offer their recommendations, and then it's up to the board or committee or commission that's hearing the matter to vote on it. So the community management teams at this point, to the best of my knowledge, have no control over those types of community development procedures.
Okay. as you said, this is a complex one, and and generally it would work much better as a workshop to be able to sit down with the chairs, Alder Wingate.
Yeah. So would it be helpful, Chair, if the makers of this item speak, you know, to this item tonight? Would it be better for them to speak, to start off this conversation in reference to why we honestly are here tonight? I think Alder Sal is one of the makers. Perhaps I think you're one of the makers. I mean, if does Sal have input that he if he had a burning desire to, share what this all came about from, I think it'll be helpful and beneficial to this a large body of people as well.
Okay, I kind of took it upon myself to start off that. That's with the initial presentation that I made, but I'm certainly happy to open it up. And there were three of us, Alder Furlow, Alder DeCola, and myself. So we will go with Alder DeCola. There you are. Would you present?
And just let you know that Alder Rose Santana was supposed to be on this as a maker too. So just so you're aware that it was an error on my part. I thought I informed Mr. Lucas, but I must have by accident forgot that. So I just want the committee to be aware of that. Yes, thank you to everybody that's here. The reason why Richard Furlow, Rose Santana, and myself and Chair Antunes was we were hearing complaints and other feelings from other colleagues. Some management teams have turned into political venues. They attack certain people for no reason. Like you said, the way this was started off, the alders are not supposed to be there or other elected officials. This was a community meeting to have. If they wanted to have a meeting with the alder, then they could arrange to have that meeting. But to dictate that you have to be there and that you have to leave another meeting that I was elected and chosen to represent the whole city, you can't. I have to pick first of what I was elected to do. Other than that, it's just feelings of my area that it's not being told to the whole community. We only, mine and others have 10 to 12 people, and that's not a true mirror of our neighborhood. And information should be given out, not restricted. I am not entitled to some information, even though problems are happening. I talk with the lieutenant, my district manager. We talk about everything. My new LCI rep, we talk about everything and what she hears and what I hear. But my management team doesn't want to talk. Everything is private. He doesn't have to divulge what that information is. And that's not right. That's he should be giving it out totally to everyone. It shouldn't be kept. There was a big argument at the last management team that they wanted it to be all CC, not BCC. And even though there's no FOIA on it, it should not be held. It should be more transparent. Let people hear what their feelings are. If you're gonna, just like all our public meetings, we let people speak and they interact with each other and hearing other comments. Just like the Tweed meeting last night. Everybody got to speak and they heard each other. And our transparency of emails, we let everybody know what is being sent in. They're entitled to it. Management team should be the same way. Everybody should be entitled to it. Everybody has personal lives and other obligations. Information should be given to all. And we should not have neighbors fighting against neighbors at management teams. It was not set up that way. You explained how it was originally started. And that's why this all came about. That's not mine. Other colleagues have expressed concerns about their ward, their families, the community. So that's where we got together. This is the discussion. We're not here to dictate, but these concerns must be talked about and how we can utilize the bylaws to be equitable to our whole city. We are one city. We're not broken up into 10 different districts, and everybody has their own country. We should be one city acting all the same. So that's where I was part of this making. So I'll hand it over to my colleague, Majority Leader Richard Furlow, to have his input, and then you have Rose Santana too. Thank you.
Just a note, Chair. Sean Madison had his hand up. Just in case it's a large.
Okay, yeah, I see a couple hands up there. Alder Furlow? I saw you a minute ago.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Richard Furlow, 62 Fairfield Street in New Haven. I don't think this is a complex issue. I think we maybe just went down the wrong trail in the beginning. Some LCI and others may not, didn't know what we're gathering about. And so it's good for us to take a step back and explain, because, and then we can certainly get LCI and the other department heads' input on what's going on. So and then I know Mr. Madison, because we've talked with him in great length about structure, format. And so I think that what he has would really add some more light to this. I didn't mean to, I'm not pointing out Ms. Samuel at all, because she's a great director, but because our original conversation started with the previous director, and I haven't had the opportunity to sit down with her or with Ms. Samuel to bring everything up to date on where we are with this. But the community management teams have been receiving, they didn't this year, but they were receiving certain funding from the city, $10,000. We have department heads that are going there throughout the city, perhaps being paid overtime to discuss. LCI specialists are there, required to be there, it seems like, to give discussion or to talk about what's going on in the city, to give their report. Alders give their report, other agencies are there. And so I think that the CMTs have evolved, and sometimes the evolution of a organization is good. And then at times there are some bumps in the road that just have to be cleared out. And so the discussion this tonight, which I really think needs to be, I think that having a public hearing is the right direction, because there needs to be a format that comes out of this. And so where do the management teams lie? Before, when there was a need for resolution, conflict resolution, then it was placed upon LCI to step in with some sort of mediation. Now, if it is a completely separate, autonomous organization that is completely separate from the city, then that means that LCI should not have to mitigate issues. And so there is a blending between the city and the community management teams. So our concern is there a format or a template for bylaws? Is there a training for new chairs? The money was given to them for several years, $10,000, with no real format of how the money should be spent. It was just basically general purposes. So in the future, should the city or should the mayor put in his budget after being confirmed by the board, approved by the board, that the management team should again start receiving finances, then should there be a structure for how that money should be spent? Should community management teams, which is basically, as it was mentioned by you, Mr. Chair, started by the chief, was it chief? Was he a chief?
Chief Pastor, yes.
Chief Pastor, to deal with community
quality of life issues.
And so should
engagements.
So should management teams be voting on economic development within the ward? Not all of them do, but should that be a function of community management teams? Should alders be required to give reports. And so this all comes into the structure of what should be expected from a community management team on both sides. On the city side, what is the expectation? And also on the CMT side, what is the expectation? We have experienced a diversity of police changes due to promotions and just due to general shifting. And so you have a district manager that has changed from one, because these community management teams are actually by police district, if correct, Chair Antunes?
Yes.
Which also brings another point. Are you able to create your own CMT outside of a police district without the authority of the city? And if so, is it recognized as a CMT, or is it just recognized as a community coming together, a community meeting? And so with all these sort of things happening, I just think that it's good to consider a better format, or maybe I shouldn't say better, but to discuss a format and structure and moving forward that would better help the community and the chairs of the management teams to understand what is good structure throughout our city. And it was one of the things that just slipped my mind. Well, maybe it'll come back to me, but this is really the basis of what this discussion is for. We have the CDBG grants that come out, and so management teams are required to, or they're not required, but they're requested to get a letter, or to provide a letter to organizations that are applying to CDBG. Many management teams have no idea who these organizations are, and they just give a letter. Now that comes out of finance, the finance department. Should that be a requirement of the CMT, of the CMT, or a responsibility or a right? And so these are several things that I think have kind of evolved from its previous function that I think is worth having the discussion. Not a discussion in opposition, but a discussion of what works citywide. So that, as I was saying before, as police lieutenants are being shifted, they walk into a management team and they have no idea the function of that management team, because it changes from one part of the city to the other. Right. Should there be a standardized time? Should they all meet in one place? Should we use police substations where applicable, or should we use schools that offer better parking and are well lit? And so these are just some of the things that I think are good for discussion, because if we think about just our own CMT, I'm not able to attend as many as I would like to with mine here in West Hills, because of the Black and Hispanic Caucus. And when I'm not in another meeting, I try to make it down to the web, which runs wonderfully. And I'm sure that there are alders that would say their management teams are operating great. Well, could we provide more structure to make it even better? And so I think that that's what this conversation is about. And thank you, Mr. Chair, for allowing me the time to speak. And I yield back to you, sir.
Thank you. And you're right on target. And one of the things is the 3 points that I listed that was set forth when the management teams were first started. Things change and needs change. Communities change, not only people, but what they need or what they would like to see. So, I mean, the management teams may need to change along with the environment. So that's important. I mean, and I know what you're talking about, the meeting nights. My management team, Quinnipiac East management team, our meetings on the first Tuesday. So I always make sure that that's open and accessible so I can go to them. Sometimes it's not, because we have our board meetings switched on to the first Tuesday if the first Monday is a holiday. So sometimes we miss it. The other person as one of our makers was Alder Rosa Santana. And I'd like you to present as well now, and then we'll go to Sean Madison.
Thank you, Chair Antunes and colleagues, and the police department and LCI who are on the call as well. I started this management team in Ward 13 over 20 years ago. And when I asked who do I talk to, I was told to go to the police chief. And the police chief was the one who decided whether you can have one or not. Because he went by the policing districts. And there's in Ward 13, there's one policing district, but we have two separate areas that are different and than East Shore and than it is in Ross, where Ross Woodward is, in Quinnipiac Avenue, where I live. And they sent us to Fairhaven. And I didn't want to go to Fairhaven because I believed that the management team needed to be represented here in Fairhaven Heights. So they said the only way they would do it is if you have 3 wards. Well, we did Chair Antunes' ward, 11, 12, and 13. So we had our 3 wards. And so that's how our management team got created. The police chief had to approve it. There was no ifs, ands, or buts. That's the way it was done. And with the help of the police department, we were able to get bylaws that were done by a different CMT who had already prepared their bylaws. So we simulated the same ones and recreated them. The management teams are supposed to take minutes. They are supposed to record those minutes. They are supposed to save those minutes, and they're supposed to pass it along to the next chair so that they have information. They're supposed to record the attendance of the individuals who are in attendance. They're supposed to record who is eligible to vote. If you don't attend so many meetings, then you can't vote on an item. The CMTs, as Alder Furlow had stated before, over 20 years ago or over 30 years ago, there was a big project that was being done that in regards to census. And the census actually dictated how LCI got involved in this process. And LCI got involved in this process because the current director of LCI, the past director of LCI, was the actual person who is in this community engagement. And so there were people who were elected to attend them as not CMTs, but as individuals representing their community. And that's how it all began, which all became into the CMTs. And so more information got delivered to the CMTs so that they can vote on issues requiring policing and requiring LCI help when issues were being discussed at community management teams. It was not a political agenda where representatives were allowed to attend to discuss their platform for the upcoming election. It was not utilized for that. It was only supposed to be utilized for community work. And so if they wanted to do a park or they wanted to do whatever that had to do with the betterment of the community, that's how they were formed originally. And a lot of the things that Alder Furlow had said, it had evolved into signing off on projects in your neighborhoods. And so you get a letter from the CMT. Well, you can't go to a community management team unless you get a sign off from the community management team. You couldn't go to city plan or to the board of zoning. And that shouldn't be the case, because a lot of people don't need that sign off from the management team, because half the time the people who are signing off on the management team don't have any clue as to who or what they're voting on, because they haven't been involved in that specific issue. This is a way for the community to not engage in starting up their own community management team. and put the name of QEMT as their title, but allow them to use, we have 3 or 4 community groups in our neighborhood. We have Quinnipiac Meadows, we have Quinnipiac River Group, we have a number of others. So why can't they call themselves whatever the group is supposed to be, not QEMT, because that's not their title. Thank you.
That's all you have, ma'am. Thank you, Alder Santana. Mr. Madison. Right, make sure we give name and address too as well.
Of course, Sean Madison, 1279 Quinnipiac Avenue in the Fightin' 12th Ward. I appreciate a chance to speak here. The city's had a long history of working in conjunction with various organizations and community groups for the betterment of the city as a whole, and that includes the management teams. And as it's been said before, the management teams came about as an extension of community policing, where residents broken down by the police districts are able to have conversations with their neighborhood police bosses, the district managers, alongside the city's anti-blight agency, which is LCI. And this was done because, as an extension of the community policing, the management teams wanted to address, they were looking to address at the time what was commonly referred to as the broken windows theory of crime. Right? And that was a model that focused a lot on disorder, and that disorder led to increased fear, withdrawal from residents, which then allows more serious crime. So the CMTs became a community policing platform to kind of pull these governmental entities together to address things. But I mean, it has changed, and the city does engage management teams as a platform for sharing information that impacts neighborhoods and communities. Now, these engagements have extend from discussions on neighborhood development projects, new public policies, to other matters that, you know, touch really deeply upon the community fabric, to rise to the need for a conversation. And yet the CMTs exist only in code and reference, and their role in nominations for the CRB, Civilian Review Board. And they do have a role in the CDBG process. That doesn't make them any less important as a residential group. And they are an incredibly valuable tool to spread important information and as thought partners at times on different things. But what I have been hearing a lot about, as you know, tonight is as well as in previous conversations, basically like 3 things. You know, what is the scope of the CMTs? Who is the CMT? And what are the rules? And what should the public, the alders, and city staff expect? I think those are like the 3 buckets that I hear most about. Again, for my own personal point, I do think for city staff, it does, you know, we spend time talking to lots of different groups, and it is difficult at times if there's any confusion on who is the community policing management team, and talking to because the last thing we want to do is offend residents by any stretch of the imagination. So we tend to be very mindful about that, but confusion does not work well. But those would be the 3 things that I would say that to just sum it up and what have been the issues. I mean, again, you know, we do engage them. I mean, economic development engages them on the issues of neighborhood development. And And we don't do that to ask their permission or for them to take an affirmative vote on anything, because they're not the legislative body. But again, rather as, a group of neighborhood leaders and community leaders that have an interest in what's going on, and sharing that information back and forth. So, and happy to answer any questions and participate in the conversation in any further way I can.
Thank you, Mr. Madison. Also want to acknowledge, I think we had another one of our alders that came in. Former alder Alfreda Edwards is on the line as well. And Alder Carmen Rodriguez is on. Now, I'd like to give us an opportunity to hear from some of the management team chairs. I see a couple of the names that I recognize from the list that I read off, and I know they may not all be up to date, but the hands were up as I asked them to do. And the first I see is from Hill North, Howard Boyd. Can you bring Mr. Boyd in? He had his hand up. Did we see him or did we lose him, Al?
We saw him, but something's wrong with his connection.
Okay, we'll give him a chance to fix it. The other name that I saw was.
Yes, I'm there.
Oh,
I'm
there you
there.
are. Mr. Boyd,
Okay.
yes, sir.
Yes,
You had
yes,
a question or comment
Um,
regarding management teams. Your name and address
yes,
again for the record.
Okay. Howard Boyd, Chair for Hill North Management, 819 Congress Avenue, for the record. I think this was a great idea to open up a can of worms about all of us being educated on management team and which way it go. Where does our community leadership goes? Where it goes with the city and everything. It seemed like it'd be nice to get everybody together and sit down and I wrote my notes to even talk to the court council and the mayor and the aldermen if they continue to keep management teams existing going and keeping it all in one group. Richard, you had a great some words on about the management team. I just think that this was a great evening to open up and see where do we stand. I think some of this, it is a bit of political thing. I try to keep the political stuff out of the management team to get the community more involved into it on what the community issues and concerns are. Then you look at when we get the agenda, letters of supports and stuff that come out. And when the alders and city officials and departments come to the meetings, which we all, I believe, didn't know what the true meaning to the management team, how it should be run. So everybody comes in and wants to talk about what development goes on, what goes on in board education. We take it and put it on our agenda. We thought it was good resource information for our community. And never time to digest things. We alders being asked to come into meetings because we always just wanted to just get reports, because sometimes as a chair, we do get questions from community people asking, what's going on in the community, what's going on downtown. So we all seem to get involved in something, but it's good to start this year off to before we get started to construct something real good for the management team and see where our places are at. So, we won't be running around like a wild chicken and getting involved in things that we shouldn't be. And listen to the court counsel with the bylaws and protocols. The stuff was very excellent, was given out to us. I thought we were just educated through Alder, was it Rosa Santan, on her, what she knew in Mr. Antromon, you guys being in 20, 30 years ago. So I just want to put my input in, and it's like, it'd be good to start a workshop and start one right away. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Boyd. The other name that I saw was, does anyone have any questions for Mr. Boyd? committee members? No, don't see any. All right, the next name that I saw, I recognized was from East Shore, Howie Blau. Chair of East Shore. Can you bring in Mr. Blouse? Then after him, I had Sarah McIver. Is Howie in? Did we lose him or do we have him there?
He came in and popped out, so we're gonna try to bring him back in again. Okay, he has declined to be promoted, so maybe he doesn't have anything to add at this time.
Okay, the next name that I saw popped up was, where do you go here? Lee Cruz.
Did you say Sarah McIver first, or you going?
That's right, Sarah McIver, then Lee Cruz. Sarah McIver from my old Hill South.
Ms. McIver is in. She would need to unmute.
Miss McIver.
I unmuted. Can you hear me?
I hear you. You were the chair when I was district manager out there.
No, I wasn't.
You were active in our ward, though. Miss Iver, give us your name and address for the record, please.
Sarah McIver, 21 Arthur Street, New Haven. I hear what everyone is saying, but each district have different problems. So I don't know how you're going to do a uniform thing, because the problems that they are describing, we don't have those problems. So I am willing to talk about it, but I don't see what the problem is.
So it sounds as though you're on the same level as Howard Boyd, and you would like to see more of a roundtable or a
roundtable discussion.
Okay, that's good. We take notes and we'll get ideas, because, like I say, this board is looking to help. We don't want to govern. We want to be able to help the community to learn to help themselves. And some management teams are doing it fine. They're doing a great job.
And I think we are one of them.
Well, congratulations then. Okay, I don't want to take your time. Is there anything more you wanted to offer?
Not at this moment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And now we're on for Mr. Cruz.
Can you hear me, Mr. Chair?
Yes, I can.
Oh, excellent.
Okay.
Excellent.
Just looking for you on the screen, that's all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the invitation. My name is Howie Black. I'm the chair of the East Shore Management. I live at 36 Florence Avenue in Morris Cove, and we are wards 17 and 18. The three issues that you brought up earlier from the group about the basic structure, responsibilities, and bylaws, we are in 100% accord with the structure of the organization, the responsibilities that we have to enhance the quality of life in our area, and our bylaws are amended annually. We share them with all of the members and ask our members to make their suggestions on any modifications needed. We have approximately 200 members of our East Shore management team, 200 residences. I can't even begin to tell you how many that translates into, how many individuals. We have between 40 and 60 people who have appeared at our meetings. Since COVID, we have been on Zoom. I've had a couple of requests to do hybrid meetings, and if one of our members steps up and can run an in-person hybrid meeting while I run the Zoom portion, I'd be delighted to do it. We have a secretary who takes minutes. The minutes are distributed to all members of the management team by email. They go out within 3 or 4 days after our meetings. We are totally non-political. The funding that we use for community projects, enhancements of public spaces, enhancements of the forts, erecting a flagpole at the firehouse, cleaning up the monuments in the town. We invite our alders to the meeting. Our police district manager comes, of course, and our state rep, Al Paolillo Jr. joins us at the meeting. We think that we are in 100% accord with how you, as a board of alders, view the responsibilities and obligations of the management team, and any suggestions that can be made to enhance the experience of our members in our committee, we're all in. We've recently met our new LCI representative, Maggie Fernandez, with whom I met in person and came to our last meeting and has been remarkably wonderful and responsive to the requests that we made, as was Paulie Morbidelli when he was our LCI rep. We have drafted for review the bylaws, which will come up in the spring. I think that we've captured the essence of the requirements of a good set of bylaws, and I'm certainly willing to share that with the Board of Alders or with any management team that would like to see our draft of the bylaws. As I said, we sent our minutes out within 3 or 4 days after our meeting to all of the members of the management team, whether or not they were at the meeting. We keep attendance for voting purposes because there is a voting requirement in our bylaws, and we keep to that fairly strictly. It's been a little difficult to administer on Zoom, but we're doing the best we can. I'll be willing to take any questions from any member of the community or any members of your Board of Alders. And again, thank you for the invitation to come before you tonight. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Blow? No, thank you, Mr. Blow.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Uh-oh, wait, see, Alder Roth. Hold on a second there. Alder Roth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And it's actually not a question. I just have a general comment I was hoping to make because we didn't go around everyone on the committee at the start. And I think like the vice chair, it's great to be able to hear from all the people. I guess and also like him, I actually go to 2 community management team meetings downtown Worcester Square and East Rock, both of which function very well, but both of which function differently from each other. And I appreciate sort of that some management teams perhaps have struggles, and clearly we want to sort of be helping in any way to sort of any training or guidance. But I also, I think I just want to state that I don't necessarily agree with the idea of creating a cookie cutter approach that everyone has to follow the same processes. The city, there's differences across the city, and community groups should kind of be able to operate in the ways that they want to. East Rock just sent out a big survey to sort of learn what things interest people. And I do appreciate, Chair, that you sort of changed an original statement you made, which was that management teams should be following the same purpose from 1990. And then I appreciated that you said times have changed, perhaps not, things evolve. And I think that's very important. I don't think it should be stuck, community management teams should be stuck with only the same purpose as when they first were created, and people should be able to evolve them in ways that are useful to enhance the community. And finally, I just want to say, I first got involved in the city through a community management team, and I found it a great way to meet others, to feel connected to the city, to get to hear information. And so I think one really important thing is just to be super inclusive, and how can we encourage more people to know about management teams and more people to want to attend and be involved. So I just wanted to make that statement, but I don't want to take any more time because a lot of people have been waiting a long time. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments at this point? Kind of tough looking at this screen for hands. The other
I
names.
see no one, Chair.
Pardon me, sir?
I don't see anyone.
Okay, thank you. I had Lee Cruz, we said a couple times. Is
Yeah.
Mr. Cruz in? There he is. Name and
Thank you very
address, sir.
much. Lee Cruz, 29 Clinton Avenue. In Fairhaven, I co-chair the Fairhaven management team with Diane Ecton. I had the good fortune of doing that with her back around 2000 when I moved back to New Haven after living away for a few years. And then I went away from the management team, became back involved, and then last year became co-chair again with Diane, who I believe has been serving all that time as one of the two co-chairs. I believe that I work at the Community Foundation, and as a result of that, I occasionally go and visit other management teams, and I definitely see that there's variety. And I think that variety is the spice of life, that it's good for management teams to be reflective of the style and character of the neighborhood. But at the same time, I believe that increasingly the city is calling upon developers, agencies, and others to, in some way, communicate with neighborhoods, with neighborhood residents. The vehicle that has been chosen has been the management team. So it's grown and evolved from the initial intent with the police and police relationships. And so therefore, I think that what might be worthwhile is a convocation under the Board of Alders or someone from City Hall to talk with the co-chairs about minimal standards that have not to do with anything regarding process, which is it's an internal process. We're not a city agency or a city entity, but the city should feel that it is useful to get input from the management team. And a part of that usefulness is to have representation of the diversity and the variety of people from the neighborhood. So helping community management teams and setting standards for openness of meetings and openness to participation from as diverse a group as possible from within that neighborhood, I would consider that to be useful and helpful, because if you're sending, let's say, a developer or an agency to get input from us, but we represent only ourselves and only our vested interests of our little group of friends. I'm not saying that that's happening anywhere. I don't believe that's happening in Fairhaven. I don't know that it's happening in none of the neighborhood. But if it were to be happening, then you're not getting something that's useful. And we're not doing a service to our neighborhood or to our city. We're only doing a service to ourselves. So setting some sort of ground rules or something to assist CMTs in opening up and being more diverse and keeping records of what is said and what is decided in general terms, that would be, I think, something useful to help CMTs to be a part of the decision-making process to advise, not to consent, but to advise the city. And if some group that doesn't wish to follow those minimal rules for that inclusion, then they can continue to operate. No one is telling them they can't meet. It's just that they're not that vehicle for that communication or for that input from the neighborhood. That would be my comment. And I would be open to any questions that anyone has about what I've just said. Thank you.
Hello, Chair, you're on mute.
Had a little sneeze coming there. I didn't want it to go over a microphone. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Cruz? No, then thank you. Were you going to say something, Alder Wingate?
Yes, Chair. Can I just make a suggestion in reference to, we have 80 participants. Can we do like a 3-minute time limit on testimony at this point, considering this the hour that it is?
Yes. I'm watching the hands, and fortunately we don't have 80 hands up. So we're doing pretty well. Of course, now they're making me wrong. All right, thank you, Mr. Cruz. I have a comment from Alder Rodriguez, Evelyn Rodriguez.
Thank you, Chair Antunes. I just want to share a little bit in reference to what has already been added in reference to the history of the management teams. I worked under the New Haven Fighting Back Initiative, where hundreds of volunteers came together in a series of committees to address crises like the ones we're facing today regarding substance abuse and the opioid epidemic. And around the work that these volunteers did, gave their time, loaned their skills and efforts, they came up with the ideas of the substation, the neighborhood specialists, community-based policing, block washes, and management teams. In the management team, the basic fundamental was to bring people together in the specific neighborhood for the sole purpose of addressing the issues that impact the neighborhood within where that management team lied. And the important thing was to bring the resources together and to bring the residents together. And in our, all of our development projects, you will see that in its language, the management teams become very fundamental in being the voice of the communities that could very well be impacted by those development projects. And that's why we have our management team, for example, in Hill North and Hill South are very well visited by all of city municipal administration, developers, and anyone within the neighborhood that has any type of anything that they want to be receive some blessing from communities. And so it's really important to see where we have revolved in terms of the management teams, what role will they play, and what accountability and how could we make them and ourselves accountable. So I think that the cheers and sharing that they want to see a round table and we could work together at doing some things that could help with the communication all around and increase residential base will be, I think, very, very important from here on as we continue to work together. The other thing that we need to keep in mind is that we have our city is divided in districts, police districts, in state representative districts, and in wards. So often you will find that we have alders that have to attend 2 or 3 district management team. The same thing with having our personnel in the city visiting 2 management teams or 3 management teams to bring the same information that is significant to all of those residents in all of the different districts. That is what I want to share at this time. And thank you, Chair Antunes, for allowing me the opportunity to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Rodriguez. Alder Wingate, I'll ask you if you would keep time for us, and we'll give everyone 2 minutes.
Will do.
Thank you. So what I'm going to do now is I've exhausted the list of those that I recognize on our list, and I'll go down the list as the hands are up. Starting with Elena Greenwald. Can you bring in Elena Greenwald, please, Mr. Lucas? Greenwald.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes. May I have your name and address for our record, please?
Eleanor Graywall at 88 Cottage Street, apartment 3.
Welcome.
Thank you. First, I want to say, I'm very excited to hear this discussion. I think I joined the East Rock CMT and then became the chair of the CMT in June. And one of the things that I've been really interested in is learning about what's working well in CMTs and what can be improved. And so, it's great to hear this discussion, and thank you for facilitating it. I also have attended some of the other CMTs and noticed differences, and I do think that there are definitely positives to having there be local groups that can kind of operate in ways that work well with their communities. So echoing that thought that I think has been shared by others here too. We do have a set of bylaws for the East Rock CMT. That is helpful to have. And so I think if there are groups that don't have them, then that definitely would be great to share. I haven't seen the bylaws of other groups, so I'd be interested to see what those look like. And so, having a little more structure perhaps around access to information in other CMTs, I think would definitely be valuable and great to have. I also, Abby mentioned in East Rock, we did a survey of our community members. And so we had about 40 members respond to the survey about how satisfied they were with how the East Rock CMT was operating and the quality and life and safety in East Rock. It was really helpful. So I'm happy to share that with other CMTs as well about just a way to get some feedback, an alternative way to get feedback potentially. The biggest concerns that came up have been echoed here by others as well. So it's interesting to hear that, these are shared concerns, in particular around diversity of membership. So I think that just putting that out there as something that it seems like many would benefit from, having better ways to publicize the CMTs and have more members represented.
Thank you, Ms. Greenwell.
Thanks.
Mr. Vice Chair, if we just give them a little heads up notice before they're up, so they can end in a sentence, would be helpful for me. The next on the list showing Alfreda Edwards. And then after Alfreda would be Nadine Horton. I don't see her yet.
Okay, let's see what's going on here. We brought in, let's see, hold on. There was someone before that, Mr. Chair.
We just had Elena Greenwell.
Yep. And
now looking for Alfreda.
She was there, she disappeared. Okay.
Okay, we'll hold Alfreda. And Nadine Horton was the next one up. And we can come back to Alfreda. She might have a little technical problem.
Yeah, we had Kim Harris as well, who I thought popped in, but let's.
Yeah, she was here before and she vanished.
Okay, well, let's bring in Ms. Horton. Hopefully those two will return. I
I'm
see it.
here, Kim Harris.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Harris.
Hello, and thank you. Thank you, Chair of this committee and alders. You
Yes, you
know,
have 2 minutes. Name and
thank
address,
you very
please.
much. Kim Harris, 29 Lander Street, New Haven, Connecticut. I'd like to say that all kinds of things were running from my mind when we first started this conversation. At first, I was like, wow, is it a shutdown? Then I heard mindfulness, and then I heard solutions for working together. In 2018, the management teams came together and we put together something called the One City Initiative. Over 18,000 people touched it, over 1,000 activities. In 2019, 10,000 people, 400 activities. And of course, in 2020 and 2021, COVID hit. But we worked together to put a calendar together, and we resourced information from each other about how our management teams are running, and use some best practices to really be on point with doing the best we can with our organizations. I would like for this committee to consider bringing back the One City Initiative, where management teams come together with some assistance to really formulate solutions and to be creative for making this one city a great city. I just believe that we get disconnected sometimes, and because we get so caught up with life. But when we had those meetings, and the meetings were ongoing, they were thoughtful, they were energetic, and they were very, very helpful for knowing who's doing what, when, where, how, and how it works. Thank you so much to this committee.
Thank you, Ms. Harris.
We do have former Alder Edwards.
Okay, bring her up and we will hear her.
Hello.
Ms. Harris. Nope,
Hello?
we're looking at Ms. Edwards.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Ms. Alfreda. Name and
Hello,
address for the
everyone.
record, ma'am.
122 Sheffield Avenue, Alfreda Edwards.
Can we see your picture?
No, you cannot.
That's 2 minutes. That's 2 minutes. 2 minutes is up.
Oh, sorry.
The
Nice
2
of you to
minutes is
stop
up.
by. I want to go back to what Ms. Harris was talking about. We have been working together very well. We've been growing here in New Hallville. I think that we come together, we try to send the notices out. People sometimes claim that they're not aware of what's going on in their community, but I think that all of us have knocked on doors, sent out flyers, and tried to make people much aware of what's going on here. Some of the issues that are going on, it's going on all over the city. So, the shootings that have been going on, New Hallville is where we live. And, it's really been tough. It's been tough all around the city. Now, how do we combat that as a city? Work on that as a city is very, very important, because it's just seemed like it's no end to the shootings that's been going on here in the city. But we have, I think that each management team, we have Ward 19, 20, and I believe 21. And I think Dix will sometime, join in with some of our meetings. And I think it works very well because we're close in proximity and we all have the same problems all over the city. So, and if you look back to the Fighting Back, when Fighting Back started, and you look back in the empowerment zone that affected New Haven, like you say, we have different problems sometimes. We had the empowerment zone here. We had the burn grant here in New Hallville. We had different other grants that we could apply for that maybe other neighborhoods weren't available to, could not get. So, that's something maybe we should look at, trying to get money to work on specific things that the neighborhood really needs, So as far as putting us all together, for a meeting, yes, maybe we should have one meeting, but I don't think we need to be dictated by downtown of what we do in our communities.
40 seconds.
All right, that's it then. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alfreda. All right. I see names are jumping around. I think we have Nadine Horton on now.
I'm
Let's
here.
come back. Okay, Ms. Horton, name and address for the record, please.
Nadine Horton, 495 Winthrop Avenue. I'm going to just agree with Ms. Edwards in that we do not need to be dictated by City Hall on what we could be doing as residents in our neighborhoods. No one but the residents knows what's going on in our neighborhoods and what is best for our neighborhoods. So we could use assistance from City Hall, but absolutely no dictation. Just real quickly, I'll run down our credentials for the web. And I appreciate the kind words that were spoken by Mr. Vice Chair Brian Wingate and Alder Furlow. We hold monthly meetings. We have bylaws. We have recorded minutes of the meetings that are also sent out within 2 to 3 days of the meetings. We have elections on a regular basis. We also rotate. There are term limits within the web. We have committee members, executive board members, excuse me, that rotate on and off. So there is not one person who sits in this seat for extended period of time. And that's to encourage diversity of thought, perspective, and anything else you can think of. We work extremely well with all city departments. I think we've had every city department head at our management team meetings. And that is because we have worked very hard over the 16 years that I've been involved with the management team to develop relationships with City Hall and to work collaboratively with City Hall. Myself and my chair, co-chair, Chris Peralta, have gone to different management teams throughout the city because, as has been said, we do share a lot of the same issues. At the same time, like Ms. Sarah McIver said, each neighborhood is different. And the way we approach our issues here in the web is going to be different than how they're approached in Hill North, Hill South, Fairhaven, etc. I think that in the future, if we're going to do something like this, I think it should be done on a more one-on-one basis if there's a problem child in the management team world. And also, just real quickly, I'll add, at one point under the Harper administration, all the management team chairs were brought together on a bi-monthly basis to discuss issues that we were all having with city departments, and they were addressed at that time. I would love to see us get back to something like that as soon as possible, because again, that built unity not only between the different neighborhoods, but also within the chairs who were able to talk to each other and share different ideas. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was.
And believe me, as far as I'm concerned, I don't think the city wants to really oversee. We don't want to be dictating to anyone. Community knows, just like you said, they know what they need, and just hopefully everyone can apply it. Mr. Vice Chair.
Yeah, thank you for your comments. And our majority leader wants to jump in for 1 second. He had his hand raised. Thank you, Webb.
Mr. Furlow.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. I think this is going way off course. This is about providing the assistance for some additional structure. It is not about mandating. It is not about dictating. It is not, as you've said several times, putting the CMTs under the Board of Alders or under a city department. We have city departments that go to meetings. Some CMTs start at 6, some start at 6:30, some start at 7 o'clock, where LCI specialists are going, where police district managers are going. So this meeting is about considering whether it is good to help provide some structure to our CMTs. It is not a discussion about what everyone is doing right or who is doing wrong. It is about coming together and having the discussion. And it is a public hearing, because if it was a workshop, then the public would not be involved. It would just be us sitting here talking. So that's why it's a public hearing, so that we can hear from the public after the makers present and after department heads have their say. And so I just wanted to kind of bring this back, Jermaine, to whether or not it seems right to help provide structure. Some CMTs don't have bylaws. I disagree with one of our colleagues that said that I think that it was just heard wrong, that it's a cookie cutter. Well, the bylaw should be. The bylaw should be the same across all the CMTs. That has nothing to do with diversity. It has nothing to do with projects. It has nothing to do with each community being able to display their diversity, their flavor. That's not what this is about. This is about providing better structure, which would help our LCI specialists, our district managers, our new CMT chairs, understanding what the CMTs are about as a foundation. There has to be a foundation first, and then it can be built and expanded upon. That is what I believe that this conversation is about. And so I wanted to bring this back, Jermaine, to what we're talking about, so that we're not thinking that this is accusations against CMTs. We all are putting in a lot of time to help our communities flourish and to help our communities be the best. And so this certainly is not an indictment against CMTs, but to figure out a way, as we're entering in to a greater age of technology, what works best in moving forward. That's all I wanted to say, Mr. Chair. Thank you for giving me this time.
Gotta make sure my microphone is on. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying. It goes along track and then it kind of veers off a little. Although I do enjoy hearing what some of the management teams are doing that are successful. I just want to push it along a little quicker, so we don't need to keep everyone out real late. So we ask everyone to keep to your 2 minutes. We're going to move along because we have about 6 hands left up. Ian Dunn was next. Mr. Dunn, and then Kat Calhoun after that.
Hello, thanks. Sorry I'm outdoors. It got dark.
Name and address for the record, sir.
Ian Dunn, 20 Brown Street. I'm the chair of the Downtown Worcester Square Management Team. I became on chair during the pandemic, just in March, and I have tried to maintain the existing structure, but I do appreciate, and I think that it is a very good idea that everybody's coming together to kind of share what works, what doesn't work, and to figure out how. I think CIO Madison said it best. What are the expectations, both rules, and what are expectations for the public, and what are expectations for city staff? I do find this forum a little confusing. I'm not quite sure if we are sharing what works, what doesn't work, or and I'm trying to talk. I'm also looking at the communication through the board. It seems like the communication is just about holding a public hearing for growth, equitability, and uniformity to the extent possible. I have gone to a couple different management teams and seen what works well in others. I think Fairhaven has a very good job, so kudos to you at Co-Chair Lee Cruz. But for downtown, I know that we're downtown Worcester Square, we have an area that's heavily serviced. We have a lot of development.
30 seconds.
Thank you very much. And I wonder how I can provide, and I can poll my residents to provide input back to this body about what you guys want to move forward on. I'm not quite sure what you guys are looking for. On development, because I think that is something that I can hear in the background. I have some developers come and say, I need to come to present to you because that's what the city expects. And then I have other developers say, I don't need to come present to you because there's no reason for that. And I agree with both of them is the problem. So I think that is a confusing thing for developers to hear, that you have to go to the management team, but yet we have no regulatory authority, nor do I think we should, to be clear. We are a group of constituents that are a group of residents that just want to provide some input. I think sometimes some good ideas come up and sometimes they don't. So that being said, I do echo, I think, what a couple of other chairs and co-chairs have said. I would love a round table where we all get together and kind of share what works, what doesn't work amongst ourselves, because I do think that it's not a one-size-fits-all situation. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I just thought that maybe through Mike Piscatelli's office, that type of thing could be established or settled with the call through them. That's my first thought anyway. Well, because they're dealing with most of the economic development and things going on of that nature in the city. So maybe you can give him a call. Mike, you expect a call from Mr. Dunn? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next hand, Leslie Ratcliffe. Uh-oh, wait a minute. The guy Calhoun's is before Leslie Ratcliffe.
Thank you, Chairman and Alder Antunes and the other parties creating this opportunity to speak. I am the elected chairperson of the Quinnipiac East Management Team. I live at 288 Eastern Street in Fairhaven Heights. Google Maps says I live in Ward 13, but realistically I'm part of Ward 12. So there are confusions about management teams and wards. Our management team meets monthly. I do agree that having some similarity in perhaps elections, terms, a few guiding principles for management teams. Our bylaws are in serious need of revision. They are very outdated from approximately 20 years ago. The flavor of the management team has changed. What we like is the umbrella of quality of life. And anything where we can be proactive as a community rather than requiring city services is something we strive for. Although we get maybe 15 people in one of our Zoom meetings, we have thousands of people in our community. And one of our issues is how to get more community involvement, engage more people. We advertise on Facebook. We sometimes post something in Quinnipiac River, although they want to stick with the river focus, and I respect that. We solicit on Nextdoor, we tell our friends. So I think one of the questions to community management teams is larger engagement. What's a fair percentage of our people to bring to our activities? We'd love to have a social function. So the Butterfly Garden is one coming up September 12th to try to engage more people in our community, more volunteers in the community projects. And we appreciate information we get from Lieutenant Rinkowitz for District 9 and from Al Paolillo, our state rep. And I thank you very much for the opportunity to have a few words before this group.
Well, thank you. But I kind of understand you were looking to get more involvement from the community, but part of the confusion is the Quinnipiac East Management Team, two groups using the same name. That could create a problem, but thank you for your input today.
And I respect that concern. We do get a larger participation. And before Mr. Kearney's term expired, I did offer to host his meetings and he didn't want that. So when elections were held, I was elected and started hosting Zoom meetings. And most of the active community people who are proactive do attend our meetings regularly.
Thank you. Next speaker, Mr. Lucas.
Coming up is Leslie Radcliffe.
Hello?
Hello, Ms. Radcliffe.
All right, it said I had to rejoin. So I thought I had 3 minutes, so I'm going to talk very fast. My name is Leslie Radcliffe. My address is 20 King Place, New Haven, which is in the Hill South District. I serve in an advisory capacity with the Hill North Community Management Team. First, let me thank Alder Furlow for trying to explain the purpose of this meeting. But the problem is that it was not initially made clear in the notice what this meeting was about. It was not made clear what this committee expected the public to speak on. I thank Antris Farwell for her diligence in disseminating all the information that she was able to get her hands on and send to the CMTs. A request for a public hearing in January to address the structure, responsibilities, and bylaws of the CMT, and then a notice emailed on August 12th, 7 months later. I find that a little bit disconcerting. The notice states it is ordered that the New Haven Board of Alders hold a public hearing to address, and as a result of this meeting, an action plan to be developed to assist. My first point is if someone expressed a concern back in January, then that concern should have been taken up with that CMT at that time. There's no reason for all the CMTs to be called into this meeting, and it's likened to when a student shoots a spitball in school and the whole class gets called into detention. But perhaps this committee would have been best served by speaking with the alders of the district that raised the issue back in January, or polled your alders to verify if indeed there is an issue with the CMTs. The committee should understand that while the districts in New Haven have similarities, we are all unique. There is no cookie cutter formula and no one size fits all functioning of the CMTs. But how we do what we do is particular to the needs of our residents and our neighborhoods. The Board of Alders is offering to help the CMTs, but I haven't heard what the CMTs want help for. And it's a bit disconcerting again that this committee seeks to address our structure and how we function without first requesting the information for review. A common definition of what it means to address a situation is to tackle a problem or apply oneself to a problem. So the first step to address the problem is to identify it. And that has not been identified.
30 seconds.
My second point is, what is the problem? There's an adage that says, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. What I would like the Public Service Committee to think about is the issue that we're having at the John C. Daniels School with the syringes in the parking lot. That is a public safety issue. Thank you very much for this committee.
Well, thank you, Ms. Radcliffe. And just to clarify the record, the management teams weren't called in, they were invited. So, I mean, it was their option, didn't have to come, but they were all invited because this is the item we wanted to discuss and learn about what's happening with management teams, how some are working, some aren't.
I appreciate that, Mr. Chair. I would find it difficult for this committee, though, to find out how the CMTs operate if you did not invite the CMTs. But the invitation was not received, and what we were invited to was not really explained. But thank you.
Thank you.
So
Mr. Vice Chair?
No.
I believe the next one was Patricia Kane.
Nope. Ms. Acton is up first.
Okay.
If I can get her in, and then Ms. Kane.
Okay, I was only overgoing her because her management team had spoken before. I was saving her for next, but that's okay.
Sorry, sir. I can bring them both in and you can pick which one. Well, okay, Ms. Acton wants to let Ms. Kane go. So we'll let Ms. Kane go before Ms. Acton.
It's just a challenge finding them on the screen. There we go. Ms. Kane. Yes, Ms. Kane, name and address, please.
Patricia Kane, 731 Quinnipiac Avenue, New Haven. I want to, first of all, agree with the people that say the management teams have evolved and should be allowed to evolve. I think that's a good thing. The city did set them up. I don't think the city should be involved. I agree with Corporation Counsel. You open yourself for liability. Having said that, I was one of the people that wrote to Taisha Walker and asked her to have a hearing like this, because in the Quinnipiac's management team, although we had a legal election and elected a legal board, LCI disputed the election without any authority, and you, Alder Antunes, also disputed it. And tonight I learned that Alder Santana in my ward also disputes it. But no one has looked at the record of that election. It was legal. And these people represent the neighborhood. But only Lieutenant Rankowitz comes to our meetings, and as well as Representative Paolillo. So we reached out to Taisha Walker to say, we want LCI to show up. We want reports. We want our alder. As a matter of fact, Kat Calhoun and her board changed the meeting from the first Tuesday of the month, because Alder Santana said that was her legislation committee, to the second Tuesday of the month. Now, she had not attended for many months prior to the election, but she also didn't attend after the election. So the problems are not all with management teams that don't know how to do bylaws or run a meeting. Some of it is other people intruding in the autonomy of the management teams. So we do need support. We are entitled to support. We do a valuable service in the community. Our projects are fabulous, and they'll be making the paper on a regular basis. So just understand that not all the problems are in the management teams. Some of it is in the political system and people seeking to exert control where they really have none. So thank you. With that, I will end my comments.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, next speaker. I think we're getting Diane Ecton.
Yes, you did. Okay, let's try again. Okay, Ms. Ecton, you need to there you go. Here we go. Ms. Ecton is in?
Ms. Ecton, are you with us? I don't see her yet.
I have it. Hello.
Hello, there you are.
Thank you for having this meeting. I think this is something that I've been talking about for a long time that I would like to see go
Name and address,
along.
please, Ms. Ecton.
Oh, I'm sorry. Right. 245 Ferry Street in Fairhaven. It's my address.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You have 2 minutes.
Okay, the 2 minutes, I'm basically going to say, I think that the management teams should have a meeting together to try to figure out how we're going to work. I also believe that the city, even though the responsibilities or the lawsuits or anything that we can keep from you guys, that there should be just basic rules of what you guys would like to see the management team to do. And also each community is very different, and I agree with that. So everything will not be exactly the same, but the basics is what I'm saying that really needs to work for everybody. And that's the number of votes they have, the number of meetings that they have to be at for a vote, things like that, minor things. And the major things that goes on in the community should be left to the community members. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ecton.
Mm-hmm.
Very good comment. We have one more, I see, Mr. Lucas.
Well, Ashley Farwell is in your queue. I don't think we've heard from her yet. Let's see. And
this is
You're moving them around faster than I can see them.
yeah, I'm not moving them, so that's Zoom. But Ashley Farwell is in. She's trying to speak. You need to get closer to your microphone, Ms. Farwell.
How's this? Can you?
I don't see. There you are.
Yes, thank you so much for holding.
We would like to see you as well, man.
Sorry. Just sorry. Just like Diane Ecton and a few other people, I'm not able to do that. So,
And give your name and address, please.
Mistress Farwell, 37 Worcester Place.
Thank you.
I want to give a shout out to Kate Bruce. I was very involved with her One City initiative back in 2000. And I think that she and Diane mentioned something that's important about on a regular basis bringing together. It was very creative, productive process that One City did, and I think it'd be good which is also good to say that the CMT heard that a lot tonight. What I would suggest going forward is maybe, I'm not sure if you need a workshop exactly at the first step.
Excuse me, Ms. Farwell. I don't know if it's just me, but you're fading in and out and we can't hear you.
I usually don't have this as a problem. I'm close.
Do you have a TV on in the background?
No, that's noise from someone else. There's nothing going on here at all.
Nothing?
Nothing. I'm in a quiet room, and I do hear a burbling, but that isn't from my computer or anything around me. I'm in a
I don't see anything on.
And now that burbling is stopped. Now it's started again. I'm really sorry. Whatever.
All right, can you go on? Try again.
So my suggestion is a simple one, that you keep tonight public hearing open, and because I think this could be a long process, or one that requires back, and that we go back to the management teams and ask them what they would recommend in terms of the direction and future growth of their CMT. And I think that by bringing all that together, thinking future forward, that could actually be helpful to every CMT, whether they're, a dynamic, organized one, or maybe going through a struggle right now. So I think that would be a good step, and then come back and I think it would be good if the board itself, as other people said, communication was vague, and if you even were a little more specific about what you would like to hear from us, then when our management teams each meet separately and maybe together, we can respond to your question better.
Ms. Farwell?
30 seconds.
Ms. Farwell, I think we're missing a good piece of your presentation. It sounds as though you're having technical problems there. Would you mind submitting that to us so that we can read it and go over it? We don't want to miss your testimony.
Okay. Then we'll be keeping the public hearing open.
Pardon me?
We'll be keeping the public hearing open.
Okay.
I'll send a note to Al Lucas.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Lucas, we have one more up, I think, and then we're going to close down because it is getting late and we don't want to keep people up all night.
You have two. You have two. One is already in.
Okay, that's why.
That is Shirley Lawrence. Shirley Lawrence.
Who is up?
Shirley Lawrence.
Shirley Lawrence. Shirley Lawrence, are you in? I'm looking for you.
Okay, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, there you are. Turn on your camera, Miss Lawrence, and give us your name and address, please.
Name and at Shirley Lawrence, 180 Bassett Street, New Haven.
We don't see you.
I know. Look, it's a miracle that you can hear me.
Okay, go ahead, Miss Lawrence.
Okay, and then now is it being recorded so I can get a copy of it? Because Andress, I couldn't hear you at all.
Yes, it is being recorded. You can get a copy of it.
Okay, great. No, so I just want to say, you know what? Thank you so much for this forum right here. Can appreciate all the intake, especially furlough, bringing it back to the basis of it being community driven, and we just making sure that we keep ourselves in order here. So I just want to say that with New Hawkville management team, this couldn't have came in a better nick of time. I think we're definitely in dire need of help with our structure. So who do we turn to actually get that, so we can move forward within the best interest of all that lives in the community? Because there's a lot of structural issues that we need to address.
You're asking that now, or that's one of the things you want us to put on our list of things
I'm
to
asking
address?
it now. I'm sorry, I'm asking it now because it's really not in a good place, and it would be remiss of me to listen to all the reasons why this management team got formed in the first place and not say that we're in need of some structure, serious structure. And
All right, all the Wingate has a response here.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we should wait for the discussion to give answers on how we're going to move.
Say that again, Brian. I'm sorry.
Yes, how you doing, Shirley?
How you doing, Brian?
I'm well. I was saying to the chair that as we go into deliberations, we can try to tackle some of what you just asked.
Oh, okay.
All right.
All right, that's fine. Yeah.
Great. That's all you had?
That's all.
Thank you.
Mr. Aaron Good has joined you, sir.
Mr. Good, name and address for the record, please.
Aaron Good, 702 Quinnipiac Avenue, New Haven. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members for convening this important discussion. Just a couple quick points. I do think it's worth looking at some models from other cities about the structure and authority of quasi-public neighborhood associations. It's like, for example, how the community boards in New York City work, how they have like a statutory role that's in like the city's code of ordinances, but it's just an advisory role. So they will take advisory votes on certain development projects as part of the municipal, what they call uniform land use review procedure. The community board's advisory vote is completely non-binding, but they do have to be consulted as a matter of law. And there are a lot of other like really good models for these quasi-hybrid associations, like neighborhood councils in Los Angeles. There's a lot of other models to look at, if not necessarily to emulate. In terms of like helping improve and strengthen CMTs through training and support, that's a great idea. Training and support about good bylaws, how to correctly use Robert's Rules of Order, developing policies around ethics and conflicts of interest. I think that kind of training and support is probably better done through the community foundation or some other similar group rather than by the city, which can look kind of coercive and heavy-handed. You know, I would like to see workshops for CMT leaders about how to create websites, how to use social media and digital tools to communicate, things like that. The groups like the League of Women Voters can be recruited to help the CMTs run their board elections in better, more transparent ways using ranked choice voting or other voting methods that are better for gauging people's preferences. New Haven Democracy School is a great program the city offers that many management team leaders have gone through. I think the city's still offering Democracy School. That's a program that should be strengthened and expanded for the benefit of cultivating more effective CMT leaders. Finally, a good way to not strengthen the CMTs and to take them backwards is to remove their prerogatives, like when the city zeroed out funding for the NPIP participatory budget program 2 years ago, taking away responsibilities from the CMTs because some of them are not functioning as well as they should. That's the wrong approach. It creates a negative spiral of decline and
30 seconds.
Function. Yeah, I'm wrapping up. So I would say, please, try to bring back participatory budgeting if possible through the CMTs, using that as an instrument of that. And I do hope the Board of Alders will continue to have this conversation and continue to get input from CMT leaders, past and present, about how we can strengthen and improve the management teams, because that will help strengthen and amplify the voice of our neighborhoods, which are really the backbone of New Haven. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Good. Sounds like you could be a good resource yourself for some of these and finding resources and places to go for the assistance. So we're going to keep your name at the top of our list. The next person, Mr. Lucas.
We are bringing in Ms. Florida Gillespie. If I can.
You know what? Can we bring in the last ones that have their hands up? I see 3 up there, and then we'll call it quits.
Okay. They.
Hello?
Just a moment. We have one before you.
Mr. Gillespie should now be in. There we go. Whoops.
Miss Gillespie in?
Miss Gillespie's in. She'll just need to unmute and turn on her camera.
Miss Gillespie.
Okay,
unmute.
could you hear me?
We can hear you. Want a name and address in your picture, please?
Okay.
And I ask Mr. Lucas to take out those who have already spoken so we don't get confused here.
I can't, okay. I think I'm on now. Oh, I can't see my picture. I don't know what's wrong with the computer.
Okay, go ahead with your comment.
Okay. My name is Florida Gillespie, 30 Hotchkiss Street, New Haven, Connecticut. I would just like to say this was an interesting hearing or discussion, learned some things. However, we at Dwight Chapel West River try to follow rules and regulations of the Robert rules for our meetings. And we try to include, we ask our policemen and our alters to come if they are available. However, we know that they have other things to do and they do bring information to us. And if they cannot be to our meetings, they send the information that we need to share with the resident. Our main focus is to try to look at our neighborhood, and we have developed 2 neighborhood plans, and we are on the verge of getting together a 3rd neighborhood plan. And also our main focus is to engage more people in our meetings, and also to look at what we can do for youth. We have developed a scholarship named after one of our residents, Deborah Davis, which we give to our youth for community service, and it is community service driven. So we are doing a lot of things, but like some of the members say, we are unique neighborhood, and we try to stay within the perimeters and look at our neighborhood in order to develop safe, quality life issues from our residents.
30 seconds.
And to involve each and every one. Thank you.
Thank you. Who is the next person, Mr. Lucas?
Olivia Martin.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Miss Martin.
Oh, hi.
You turn on your camera and give us your name and address, please.
Uh-oh, you ready for my camera? Here I go.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, let's see. Start
Can't
video.
be any worse than me.
Uh-oh. There,
there you are.
Hi. One of the things that
Name and address, please, first.
Olivia Martson, I did speak before about the sign for Whaley Avenue. But what I want to say is I think what's happening is the city is kind of using or coming to the management teams as kind of an avenue to get, what do you call it, endorsements from the management teams on projects. And I feel that the management teams we don't have architects, designers, historians, qualified experts to evaluate. We know what's good in our neighborhood. We know what we want. And so sometimes I think the city does not the best job in communicating with the whole neighborhood, like all the people about projects, whether it be development, whether it be parks, and I think the city has to work harder at communicating with all the people in our community about economic development projects, because what happens is a lot of people feel that they're all backroom deals that are being made, and then we bring it to the management team and it's like already a done deal. And that's not the way to approach the management teams. We are a partner with the city to come up with projects and plans for our community to make it successful. And sometimes we get the feeling that, here's another backroom deal, and I think if we could, get the city to really
30 seconds.
Try to communicate with the whole neighborhood, not just the CMT groups, but to the whole neighborhood about all kinds of projects. And that's it. And I think we should continue the discussion, like Anstra said, and we could bring some ideas to you guys, and we could come up with some, plans for making the management teams work better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Kim Harris, who's already in, is your last and final.
To the chair, Kim Harris, 29 Lander Street. I have to commend this committee, and I have to commend the chair of this team, because these are conversations that are so desperately needed. Though I disagree with my co-chair in Newhallville, I do agree that we need updating. I'd like to know, what are your thoughts on next steps? How do we pull this together collectively? And then just once again, just thank you for taking the time to make this happen. This was just some great conversation. So to the chair and to this committee, I now challenge you, or we collectively challenge you, to really, really come together and make some next moves happen. Thank you so very much.
Thank you for the comments. I really appreciate it. This was not an easy meeting. I think it took many of us to keep bringing it back into focus. I thank my vice chair and our majority leader for pulling the reins on me a little bit to get us back on track. And you will get your response if you're going to hang in there with us for a few minutes, because we will deliberate on this item in a few moments, I believe. Mr. Vice Chair.
Just waiting for you to close the public portion of this meeting.
We need that motion.
I make a motion that we close the public portion of this meeting.
Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion? Seeing no hands. All in favor of closing the public portion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? So carried. It is closed. Mr. Vice Chair.
Yeah, with such a healthy discussion.
Yes, it was.
Thank you for your patience on this call tonight, everyone. But I would like to make a motion, if I may.
Yes, the floor is open. Cheers.
I would like to make a motion that we do a workshop on structural and training for all CMT chairs. On agenda items on new technology, on those kind of things. I would like to see us have a workshop on that.
That's a motion on the floor, members. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Moved in second. Discussion. Mr. Vice Chair, do you have more discussion on it?
Yeah, I do. I think this group is a large group. I think that, at some point in time, renewing of the mind is important for everyone, right? Reestablishing what it means, reestablishing what the commitment is, not saying one is better than the other. I just think that at this present time, it would be great for everyone to take a step back to move forward, even though we have a unique city. And that's the wonderful thing about our city, that it has great diversity. And as we try to tackle the diversity parts of our city, we're not trying to mandate anything like that. What we're trying to do is basically give some more structure, some more training for all the chairs on the CMTs. So that's my 2 cents before I try to find something at this late hour to eat.
Thank you. Alder Smith.
Thank you, Sir Chair. There was a lot of discussions that have happened within this meeting, and a lot of things that need to be addressed. I do agree with the workshop to happen because everyone needs to be basically treated on the same level. I don't believe anyone in any of these communities should be left out or feel that they're left out because no notifications of the community management team meetings. And I do run with some questions of how these elections are run and how they are elected. And also, I know that the city comes in to give the information and so on, but I want to make sure that we cover all grounds so we're not sending in city people in that's doing a lot of this overtime, being that, they want to run their own meetings the way they want to run it, that we utilize it, the time wisely and not waste our city services. Not saying that they're being wasted, but everything needs to be decently and in order. And nothing should be out where everybody should be able to focus on community issues. And I do like the first half of what the structure in the 90s were. I really think it should go back to the police department district managers should take control over these meetings. It would bring definitely order, and the city department should have the opportunity to mention what's going on in the city, which gives the information to the residents, and just work together, because that is to help to get the community engaged and to figure out ways how we can reduce the crime and youth engagement within each one of our districts. And I think that's very important. And I also believe that we need to bring this back into the police substations, these meetings back in the police substations. So that's all I have to say right now, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alder Smith. If I could put in my little piece, I think it needs to be a manageable meeting. And by that, I think we have to look at inviting the chairs, or maybe the chairs and the vice chairs. I would still bring a lot of people. We have 12 management teams, that's 24 people at max, plus our committee members and those we invite from city departments. As a workshop, it's great. It's better managed that way. But I would also caution everyone, I don't know if we really want to be overseeing to help lead and train. And I would defer to the Corporation Counsel's office if that would put us into any type of critical position if we're going to help train or lead the groups in a training session. We don't want to get into that part of it. Attorney King?
Yes, we'd certainly be willing to look at that. If we just
Point of
don't
order,
training,
Mr. Chair.
I don't know.
Yes, hold on a minute, Pat.
Yeah.
Just a point of order, the public portion of this hearing has been closed.
Yes.
Oh,
And
I
so
apologize.
it's not appropriate. Yeah, it's not appropriate unless you reopen the public portion and have the city department head speak. This is just deliberation for the alders.
Thank you, I apologize.
Well, as chair, we can ask for advice from our legal staff.
You can ask for advice from city staff.
Yes.
Which would be Mr. Lucas.
No, that's right.
Okay.
If I can make a suggestion, Chair.
Yes.
As we formulate what we're going to do around the structure of the meeting that has been motioned and passed, perhaps we can reach out to Al Lucas and he can reach out to Corp Counsel and find out, if that's legal or not legal. As we move forward, we will give information out about that on who's going to be training and who's going to be presenting just for legalities of the meeting.
So carried. Mr. Lucas.
Yeah, you still have yet to vote on this motion, sir. So right now
just so that you understood what all the Wingate was saying, and I'm part of the discussion.
Yes, I'm clear on that.
All right, so we will go around so we get each member's vote, starting with the vice chair.
Mr. Chair?
Alder Roth has her hand up.
Alder Roth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to chime in. I thought that Aaron Good, who testified, made a really good point, no pun intended, about thinking about an entity like the Community Foundation being perhaps a useful resource for providing training. And I guess I think it would be also really important to kind of think through exactly what the training, to kind of make an agenda and share it well ahead of time to all the members to kind of what is encompassed in the training. Which a lot of points were raised tonight, and to sort of, is it how to do bylaws, how to broaden participation. I guess I'm not totally clear in my mind what it would encompass. But again, I just want to emphasize, I do think considering having an outside entity help might be a useful resource.
Thank you. Alder Singh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks to my colleagues. While we're in discussion, I want to bring us back to the creator of the management team. I like us to get to the creator and where we are today. And then we can look how the structure was created, like you had read earlier, and where we are today, and how we can make adjustment and improvement so as to have a more functioning CMT. That's what I'd like to add to that discussion.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Again, I'll ask any other comments, discussions.
I'll vote yes.
All right. I just wanted to make sure that people who raised their hands late, I wanted to make sure I saw them all. So no other discussion. I see your hand, Alder Roth.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I just am not, maybe if we can clarify what the voting item is it just to have some sort of training or training led by the Board of Alders, or I guess I'm not clear of the exact voting
Okay,
item.
I'll ask the maker to repeat the motion. Alder Wingate.
Thank you. I made the motion to have some kind of structural training for the CMTs. Not saying that the city should be doing the training. I'm saying that we should have a structural training for the CMTs and the co-chairs of the management teams. You know, just like I said about renewing of, you know, the bylaws, whatever is going on that we collectively come up with, right, as the training, right? And they're welcome to send some things to Al Lucas to say, well, these are some things we need to be trained on, right? And that was my motion.
Is that clarified for you, Alder Roth?
Thank you. That was very helpful. And I also really like the idea of definitely reaching out to the management teams for their input on as to what the content would be most helpful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We couldn't do this without their input in reference to what the needs are. Thank you, Chair.
Any more discussion?
Mr. Chair, I have one other question.
Alder Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is it possible that we can actually bring into this discussion that it should be one bylaw for the whole city? Or what? This is a question. Will it be one bylaw for the whole city management teams, or will there be separate bylaws? I'm confused.
I don't think it's appropriate time for that. That would come later, because now we have a motion on the floor that we're acting on.
Thank you, sir.
Any other discussion?
I have none.
Okay, I'm calling the vote. Alder Wingate.
Yes.
Alder Roth.
Yes.
Alder Singh.
Yes.
Alder Smith.
Yes.
It's a yes for me. It's unanimous. It's so carried. Mr. Vice Chair.
I make a motion that we close.
Second.
Thank you, Alder Roth. Moving second. Any discussion? This meeting is up for vote. Alder Wingate. Oh, wait a minute. We have a question from Alder Frollo.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, perhaps I'm ill-advised, but didn't you have 2 items to vote on?
We voted on the other one at the end of it. We did that one.
Yes, you did.
So that they wouldn't have to stay.
Right. Okay. Better to double check and be sure. Yeah.
I won one. I got one.
Great. Thank you.
I knew I'd be right sometime. I'm going with Alder Wingate to get something to eat, huh?
I'll tell you, man.
All right, this is the vote. We're calling the vote. Alder Wingate.
Yes.
We'll go again.
Yes, on the first item.
Alder Roth.
Yes.
Alder Singh.
Yes.
Alder Smith.
Yes.
It's a yes for me again. It's so carried. We are closed. Good night, everyone. Thank everyone for coming tonight. Oh.
Thank you, Chair Antunes.
Oh,
and thank you, Vice Chair.
Thank you, everyone. Good night. Thank you so much.
We'll keep working together.
I tell you, funny. I tell you.
Where's our majority leader? Thank you.
It was good. Very good.
Kept us in line. He kept us in line.
Very good
Kept me in
start.
recording is still going, so don't say anything you shouldn't.
No. Listen, I want something to eat, man. I want to give me something to eat.
I'm with you.
Have a good one. Thanks.
Okay,
Thank you for your
thanks.
patience. Thank you so much.
I got some rice and beans.